Narrated by As-Sa'ib bin Yazid. The person who increased the number of adhans for the Jumu'ah prayers to 3 was Uthman bin Affan. And it was when the number of the Muslim people of Medina had increased. In the lifetime of the Prophet, there was only one muaddin, and the adhan used to be pronounced only after the imam had taken his seat, on the pulpit. Narrated by Abu Umama bin Sal bin Hunayf. I heard Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan repeating the statements of the adhan while he was sitting on the pulpit. When the muaddin pronounced the adhan saying, Allahu Akbar, Muawiyah said, Allah Akbar, Allahu Akbar. And when the muaddin said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, meaning, I testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah, Muawiyah said, and so do I. When he said, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, meaning, I testify that Muhammad is Allah's apostle, Muawiyah said, and so do I. When the adhan was finished, Muawiyah said, O people, when the muaddin pronounced the adhan, I heard Allah's apostle on this very pulpit saying what you have just heard me saying. Narrated by As-Sa'ib bin Yazid. Uthman bin Affan introduced the second adhan on Fridays when the number of the people in the mosque increased. Previously, the adhan on Fridays used to be pronounced only after the imam had taken his seat on the pulpit. Narrated by Az-Zuhri, I heard As-Sa'ib bin Yazid saying, in the lifetime of Allah's apostle, and Abu Bakr and Umar, the adhan for the Jumu'ah prayer used to be pronounced after the imam had taken his seat on the pulpit, but when the people increased in number during the caliphate of Uthman, he introduced a third adhan on Friday for the Jumu'ah prayer, and it was pronounced at Az-Zawra. That new state of affairs remained so in the succeeding years. Narrated by Abu Hazim bin Dinar, some people went to Sal bin Sa'd as-Sa'idi and told him that they had different opinions regarding the wood of the pulpit. They asked him about it, and he said, By Allah, I know of what wood the pulpit was made, and no doubt I saw it on the very first day when Allah's apostle took his seat on it. Allah's apostle sent for such and such an Ansari woman, and Sal mentioned her name and said to her, Order your slave carpenter to prepare for me some pieces of wood, that is, a pulpit on which I may sit at the time of addressing the people. So she ordered her slave carpenter, and he made it from the tamarisk of the forest, and brought it to the woman. The woman sent that pulpit to Allah's apostle, who ordered it to be placed here. Then I saw Allah's apostle praying on it, and then bowed on it. Then he stepped back, got down, and prostrated on the ground near the foot of the pulpit, and again ascended the pulpit. After finishing the prayer, he faced the people and said, I have done this so that you may follow me and learn the way I pray. Narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet used to stand by a stem of a date palm tree while delivering a sermon. When the pulpit was placed for him, we heard that stem crying like a pregnant she-camel till the Prophet got down from the pulpit and placed his hand over it. Narrated by Salim. My father said, I heard the Prophet delivering the khutbah on the pulpit, and he said, Whoever comes for the Jumu'ah prayer should take a bath before coming. Narrated by Ibn Umar. The Prophet, peace be upon him, used to deliver the khutbah while standing, and then he would sit, then stand again as you do nowadays. Narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. One day the Prophet sat on the pulpit and we sat around him. Narrated by Amr bin Taghlib. Some property or something was brought to Allah's apostle and he distributed it. He gave to some men and ignored the others. Later he got the news of his being admonished by those whom he had ignored. So he glorified and praised Allah and said, Amma Badu, by Allah I may give to a man and ignore another, although the one whom I ignore is more beloved to me than the one whom I give. But I give to some people as I feel that they have no patience and no contentment in their hearts, and I leave those who are patient and self-contented with the goodness and wealth which Allah has put into their hearts, and Ammar bin Taghlib is one of them. Ammar added, By Allah, those words of Allah's apostle are more beloved to me than the best red camels. Narrated by Aisha. Once in the middle of the night Allah's apostle, peace be upon him, went out and prayed in the mosque, and some men prayed with him. The next morning the people spoke about it, and so more people gathered and prayed with him in the second night. They circulated the news in the morning, and so on the third night the number of people increased greatly. Allah's apostle, peace be upon him, came out and they prayed behind him. On the fourth night the mosque was overwhelmed by the people till it could not accommodate them. Allah's apostle came out only for the Fajr prayer, and when he finished the prayer he faced the people and recited Tashahhud. I testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah and that Muhammad is his apostle. And then said Amma Badu, verily your presence in the mosque at night was not hidden from me, but I was afraid that this prayer, the prayer of Tahajjud, might be made compulsory and you might not be able to carry it out. Narrated by Abu Humayd as-Sa'idi. One night Allah's apostle, peace be upon him, stood up after the prayer and recited Tashahhud and then praised Allah as he deserved and said Amma Badu. Narrated by Al-Miswar bin Makrama. Once Allah's apostle got up for delivering the khutbah, and I heard him after Tashahhud saying Amma Badu. Narrated by Ibn Abbas. Once the Prophet ascended the pulpit, and it was the last gathering in which he took part. He was covering his shoulder with a big cloak and binding his head with an oily bandage. He glorified and praised Allah and said, O people, come to me. So the people came and gathered around him, and he then said Amma Badu. From now onward the Ansar will decrease and other people will increase. So anybody who becomes a ruler of the followers of Muhammad and has the power to harm or benefit people, then he should accept the good from the benevolent amongst them, the Ansar, and overlook the faults of their wrongdoers. Narrated by Abdullah ibn Umar. The Prophet used to deliver 2 khutbahs and sit in between them. Narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, when it is a Friday, the angels stand at the gate of the mosque and keep on writing the names of the persons coming to the mosque in succession according to their arrivals. The example of the one who enters the mosque in the earliest hour is that of one offering a camel in sacrifice. The one coming next is like one offering a cow and then a ram and then a chicken and then an egg respectively. When the Imam comes out for Jumu'ah prayer they, that is the angels, fold their papers and listen to the khutbah. Narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. A person entered the mosque while the Prophet was delivering the khutbah on a Friday. The Prophet said to him, have you prayed? The man replied in the negative. The Prophet said, get up and pray 2 rakat. Narrated by Jabir. A man entered the mosque while the Prophet was delivering the khutbah. The Prophet said to him, have you prayed? The man replied in the negative. The Prophet said, pray 2 rakat. Narrated by Anas. While the Prophet was delivering the khutbah on a Friday, a man stood up and said, O Allah's apostle, the livestock and the sheep are dying, so pray to Allah for rain. So he, the Prophet, raised both his hands and invoked Allah for it. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. Once in the lifetime of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the people were afflicted with drought and famine. While the Prophet was delivering the khutbah on a Friday, a Bedouin stood up and said, O Allah's apostle, our possessions are being destroyed and the children are hungry. Please invoke Allah for rain. So the Prophet raised his hands. At that time, there was not a trace of cloud in the sky. By him in whose hands my soul is, as soon as he lowered his hands, clouds gathered like mountains. And before he got down from the pulpit, I saw the rain falling on the beard of the Prophet. It rained that day, the next day, the third day, the fourth day till the next Friday. The same Bedouin or another man stood up and said, O Allah's apostle, the houses have collapsed, our possessions and livestock have been drowned. Please invoke Allah to protect us. So the Prophet raised both his hands and said, O Allah, round about us and not on us. So in whatever direction he pointed with his hands, the clouds dispersed and cleared away, and Medina's sky became clear as a hole in between the clouds. The valley of Qanat remained flooded, and for 1 month none came from outside but talked about the abundant rain. Narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle, peace be upon him, said, when the Imam is delivering the khutbah and you ask your companion to keep quiet and listen, then no doubt you have done an evil act. Narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle, peace be upon him, talked about Friday and said, there is an hour, an opportune time on Friday, and if a Muslim gets it while praying and asks something from Allah, then Allah will definitely meet his demand. And he, the Prophet, pointed out the shortness of that time with his hands. Narrated by Jabir bin Abdullah. While we were praying the Jumu'ah khutbah and prayer with the Prophet, peace be upon him, Some camels loaded with food arrived from Sham. The people diverted their attention towards the camels and left the mosque, and only 12 persons remained with the Prophet. So this verse was revealed. But when they see some bargain or some amusement, they disperse headlong to it, and leave you standing. 62.11. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's apostle used to pray 2 rakat before the Zuhr prayer and 2 rakat after it. He also used to pray 2 rakat after the Maghrib prayer in his house, and 2 rakat after the Isha prayer. He never prayed after Jumu'ah prayer till he departed from the mosque, and then he would pray 2 rakat at home. Narrated by Sahl bin Sa'd. There was a woman amongst us who had a farm, and she used to sow silk, a kind of vegetable, on the edges of streams in her farm. On Fridays, she used to pull out the silk from its roots and put the roots in a utensil. Then she would put a handful of powdered barley over it and cook it. The roots of the silk were a substitute for meat. After finishing the Jumu'ah prayer, we used to greet her and she would give us that food which we would eat with our hands. Because of that meal, we used to look forward to Friday. Narrated by Sahl. As mentioned previously, we never had an afternoon nap nor meals except after offering the Jumu'ah prayer. Narrated by Anas. We used to offer the Jumu'ah prayer early and then have the afternoon nap. Narrated by Sahl. We used to offer the Jumu'ah prayer with the Prophet and then take the afternoon nap.